The Toronto Maple Leafs have made more shocking moves as ahead of one of the biggest games of the year where they can clinch the Atlantic Division. They have made an interesting move, and this is not the player you expect. We'll break that down as well as discuss some more injury updates as it pertains to Jake McCabe and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So a ton to go over today. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, it's the place to be for daily Leafs content. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be live following this early evening game at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll be live following the game that starts at 5. There's a ton to go over today. The Leafs are in a very good spot. They're coming off a big win. Today's the day where they can officially clinch the Atlantic Division, which would then line them up to rest next week and rest a lot of their guys. But they made a move, and this broke late last night, and I know you've been a bit surprised about it, and it's very interesting. We heard about it, late on the stream, but we also have some other updates that happen after the stream. So update, defenseman Dakota Mermis will be called up on an emergency basis and will be in the lineup against the Hurricanes tomorrow. And this, of course, has a bit of a fallout effect. But I want to get your thoughts on this first. It is not Marshall Rafai. It is Dakota Mermis in what is going to be maybe a stay for him. They might call up some more defense, and depending on how things wrap up tomorrow. But he's going to be in the lineup against the Hurricanes in a bit of a surprising fashion here. This is the man they decided to call up.
I thought it was weird that they were going with 5 defensemen last night anyway. I was like, why couldn't you call somebody up on an emergency basis? But maybe they thought, oh, we all might be okay on Sunday. They don't want to do that. Maybe they're just saving that just in case, right? You never know what happens next week. And obviously, I think they're planning to rest guys. So they're going to have to get really creative with, the lineup next week. So I feel like they were trying to save that, but obviously not the case. So Dakota Mermis is being called up tomorrow to play in a pretty big game where like the Leafs cannot on a second half of a back-to-back go with 5 defensemen again. So the other thing to keep in mind is we're assuming that he's going to replace one of OEL or, Jake McCabe, who's been out. But Morgan Rielly also got injured in last night's game against the Montreal Canadiens. So there could be something to that. They haven't said anything about that. So again, I'm just speculating about that. But I would imagine they're calling him up to fill in that 6th defenseman spot. And I thought it was interesting because Marshall Rafai has spent time with the Leafs, last year, this year, he's looked pretty good. He would be a name that I would look at first. But Dakota Mermis does have more NHL experience. So it's not too shocking, I guess, in that way, but I am a little bit surprised by it. But again, he's going to be joining the team and a big game tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes because the Leafs can clinch, like you said, the Atlantic Division. You want to do that. Take care of business right now because if it lingers to Tuesday, if something happens Tuesday, you end up losing, somebody gets injured, win tonight so then you can rest guys the next 2 games. Get ready for game 1 of the playoffs so you can rock and roll because, this is everything for the Leafs at this point. This playoff run, everything weighs on this playoff run. So rest the guys throughout the rest of the week, get the job done tonight, and nothing has to linger until Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, we were speaking about it on our stream yesterday. It's a very good sign that they're now able to obviously clinch if they win. And then, of course, Tuesday, Thursday, and then assuming they play the Senators, all signs point to their game being on Saturday. So if you can rest your goaltending a little bit, but most importantly, of course, your defense, and depending on how they line up Joseph Wall. But again, Craig Berube came out and confirmed following the game that it'll be Dakota Mermis. But more interestingly, injured players OEL, McCabe, and Kampf are not traveling to rally tonight. Dakota Mermis is being recalled. So, like you mentioned, OEL, McCabe, and Kampf, we are presumably going to hear an update over the next few days, but it seems that Ekman-Larsson and McCabe are going to be fine for the playoffs. I don't think that's a worry. Kampf, we're still on the side of caution. They are definitely erring on the side of caution as it pertains to those two. And then, it's going to be interesting. But Darius, like you mentioned the Morgan Rielly thing, I think he's fine. He came out and played a few shifts after, but you never know. So did, a couple of the injuries this season. They need to win tonight to give these guys rest. Now, if they do win tonight and they're able to, of course, come out, clinch the division, I still think McCabe probably gets in one of the games, one of the final 2, just to get his legs back under him. Same with OEL. But winning tonight actually has big implications for rest, which is something that we hadn't speak about in the past few years as it pertains to winning the Atlantic Division and being able to rest.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't talked about that at all in the last couple seasons. Like last season, a lot of people were very critical of Sheldon Keefe and Austin Matthews because he was going for 70 goals. But what do you care more about, 70 goals or the playoffs, right? So that was something that was a topic of conversation last year. Everyone wanted to see the 70-goal thing. We all know that. But this year, there's nothing like that. Besides the opportunity that lies in front of you tonight to win the Atlantic Division. Not just that, they clinched home ice throughout majority of the playoffs by winning the division, right? You never know. It's still likely that they're going to win it, even if they don't win tonight. But you want to make sure that you get that so then you can have a couple guys out of the lineup for the rest of the season, the next couple games, to make sure they're ready to go for the playoffs. So that is the biggest thing, I think, right now. And again, coming off of a huge win last night, obviously everyone's feeling good. The fan base is feeling good. Mitch Marner putting in a lot of work last night, and a lot of the guys stepping up their game. It was a big win against the Montreal Canadiens, a team that has been playing well, and the Leafs kind of, stomped on them. They didn't give them much all game and won 1-0 in overtime. So follow up that, good performance last night with another good one. This is going to be a big test for Joseph Woll. Last time that he played the Carolina Hurricanes wasn't too great. So second half of a back-to-back, you got a couple injuries you're dealing with. This is a really good opportunity for Joseph Woll as well. And in terms of the other guys, like you mentioned before we move on, I mean, Jake McCabe, they said he's going to play before, Craig Berube came out and said he's going to play before the regular season ends. So that is good news. With other injuries, and we've been talking all season, like day to day turns into week to week, turns into month to month. They've been very vague with the updates that whole time. This one, he said he's going to play before the regular season ends. So if that doesn't happen, then I would be extremely concerned. But he said that that's going to happen. So I'm okay with that. Now the question is, what's up with OEL? How long is that going to be? And David Camp, because they could use him in the lineup in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a bit of a hole there. Pontus Holmberg hasn't been playing well, but let's dive into some of the things from the game yesterday. So Mitch Marner spoke about taking some shifts on defense. I don't feel lost or uncomfortable. I try not to make it difficult on myself. Just try to make the easy, quick plays. I enjoy it back there when I get the chance to play D, to be honest. And Craig Berube spoke to him about the plan yesterday. He looked very good out there in his brief stint as a defenseman, and it ultimately contributed to a win. They gave up a season low, I believe, 15 shots or close to a season low in a game where they had 5 defensemen, which is absolutely unheard of. One of them being Philippe Myers, who only played 15 minutes following playing 7 minutes against Tampa. So really, they were running 4 defensemen full time. And he also spoke out on his overtime goals. Had big saves by Stolarz. We talked that Brando was going to change. I was going to jump over and play D in that 3-on-3. Luckily, he jumped over. Willie made a great play, a little curl up, and I was able to have some time to go downhill and pick my spot. He's obviously, he has a fantastic brain for hockey as well. You can tell just by the way he's speaking. But at the end of the day, fantastic goal, fantastic play. And those 2 points matter a lot. And if they would have lost yesterday, we'd be having a bit of a different conversation as it pertains to clinching. Still kind of the same, sentiment at this point with the way the standings are wrapping up, though. But something that has been elevated even more, it was only a 15-save shutout, but it was a shutout by Stolarz. His last 7 starts, he is 7-0-0 with a .941 save percentage. There is no world. There's 2 games left. He's going to play, 3 games left. He's going to play probably one of them, would be my guess. But regardless, no matter what happens in that one start, there's no way that this guy, one of the hottest goalies in the league, arguably the hottest goalie in the league right now, the hottest goalie in the NHL, you're going with, whether you want to go with the guy who's hot, whether you want to go with the guy who's been the best. Luckily for the Leafs, it's all the same guy so far, and Stolarz has earned that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point in time, he is the game one starter, right? We were talking about it recently that, things got very interesting with him playing. He wasn't playing poor, but he wasn't playing up to the standard that he set for himself with the Leafs this season. And, Joseph Woll is starting to play a little bit better. So I think that he's going to get some rest this week. I think he's going to play maybe Tuesday, because we know he's not playing today. He's going to play Tuesday. And then I think he gets a rest on Thursday, and he's ready to go next weekend with, whatever day ends up being game one for the Leafs. Could be Saturday, could be Sunday. But I think that's the case right now. And again, he only made 15 saves last night, but it's a shutout. It's a big performance. He made some big saves within those 15 shots. So he's been really, really good for the Leafs this year. 7-0-0 in his last 7 games. Like he's rocking and rolling heading into the playoffs. Leaf fans are feeling good. And in terms of Mitch Marner, like we touched on too, great play from him. Like you said, this is a great player. And we're never, dogging on Mitch Marner for being a bad player. It's just about the playoffs. He has to come up big in these moments where he never really has, right? And we want to see that in the playoffs this year. But we know he's a great player. Picked his spot on that, right? Puts it right under the glove. He meant to do that. So fantastic play. And then, it's a story of 2 ends of the ice, right? Big save on one end, like he was doing all game, like he's done all season for Stolarz. Mitch Marner goes the other way, ends the game in dramatic fashion for the Leafs. So really good game last night. And, in the past, I was saying it on the stream, in the past, the Leafs lose that game 10 times out of 10, right? Where they let up only a handful of shots and they have almost 40 shots and they were dominating the whole game. In the past, last year, the year before that, the last 6 years, they lose that game 10 times out of 10. They came out with the victory yesterday. So I do feel like there is reason for optimism this year in the playoffs. They have been playing a little bit better. I'm excited to see what they do next week.
Yeah, and one quick note, again, Stolarz now setting a win streak for him, but the Leafs, this is the first scoreless game through period since 1957. So they got the win, got the job done, and the Leafs are playing in a few hours. So hopefully you guys are excited for that one. Let us know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching.